What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I am Dial here with another movie review, and today we are concluding our reviews on the Alien series, the primary Alien series, not including Alien vs. Predator and the Predator films. I'll talk about those at a later date, but we were mainly focusing on the Alien films. So, for those of you who don't know, I reviewed all the Alien films up to this point: Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, Prometheus, and Alien Covenant. If you haven't seen my reviews for those, check out my channel. It is going to be on a playlist called Alien. But this is the last film, at least for now. Today we are talking about the newest installment of the Alien franchise that came out this past weekend, Alien Romulus. Okay, so up until this point, I gave up on the Alien franchise. I gave up. Um, there's just been so many misses for this franchise. It's clear to me that I don't think it's ever going to get to the great quality that we got from the first two movies, Alien and Aliens. The first two Alien movies will forever be some of my favorite sci-fi horror franchises, sci-fi horror films of all time. And it's just with Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, Prometheus, and Alien Covenant, I was just, disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. I know there's some people out there that do appreciate the higher concepts and themes of Prometheus and Covenant, but for me, it didn't really do anything for me. It didn't. Michael Fassbender did a really good job as David as far as performance wise, but as far as his character, I could not get invested in him, and I thought his motivations were pretty convoluted. And I thought with Ridley Scott coming back to do those two movies, I thought we would get back to what we liked about the first two Alien films, because he's the one that started it all. But it just felt like he was going down a rabbit hole that he couldn't get himself out of. Like it felt very he was trying too hard to make the lore of the aliens so complicated and stuff like that. And I think that made the franchise suffer, at least in my opinion. So at this point, I consider the Alien franchise dead. Um, and at the time, they were going to, regardless of how the reception was for Covenant, they were going to continue to do more Alien films with Ridley, because he wanted to complete his trilogy with Prometheus and Alien Covenant. So they were going to continue with the third film, but then Disney bought Fox, and that put that stuff on hold for a while. So I don't think we're going to end up getting the third movie of Ridley Scott's prequel trilogy. Maybe it's for the best. um, but Disney still want to do more with the Alien franchise because they know how valuable the IP is. They'd be dumb if they didn't want to try and do more. And also on that front, they decided to do more with Predator too, and that was another franchise that a lot of people, including myself, almost considered dead. And then they released Prey on Hulu, and that helped to reinvigorate the franchise. And what I loved about Prey specifically, we'll talk about it more at a later date when I review the Predator films, but what they did really well with that movie was that it went back to basics with that franchise. It went back to what we really liked about the first couple of movies. That it was a simple like predator hunting people. Like they didn't try to make it like this balls out action picture. Didn't try to do super complicated things with the lore. It was very straightforward. On top of the fact that the characters in that movie was really good, Amber Midthunder and stuff like that. So I thought if they could go back to basics with the Predator film, they could do the exact same thing with Alien, and that's what it seems like they were going to do. So there was a lot of directors that came and gone as far as them trying to bring back another Alien film. The director of District 9, he was almost tapped to do another Alien film, but I guess plans fell through or creative differences. What's the director's name? Neil Blomkamp. Yeah, I was actually kind of curious about that because I think he was going to try and continue the story with Ripley and bring back Newton Hicks possibly. I think Hicks because I think there were concept art with Michael Bean in there. I don't know if Newt would have came back, but Hicks is definitely going to come back. So I was actually interested in seeing that because I've been asking for the longest time for them to continue or retcon the death of Newton Hicks, and it looked like Neil Blomkamp was going to kind of give it to us, but plans fell through, creative differences, so Neil Blomkamp moved on. So now they went and asked Fede Alvarez, and I think he's a solid director. I actually do think he's a very solid director. He directed the Evil Dead remake, and I'll admit the first time I watched it, I didn't like it at all. But the more I watched it, like I had to grow to like that movie. Like I start to get more and more appreciation for it. The more I watched it, to the point where I do enjoy it. I think it's pretty good. And then he did Don't Breathe movies. I really liked the first Don't Breathe. I thought it was very well done. Don't Breathe 2, I thought it was fine. Not as good as the first film, but it had some good moments here and there. So yeah, they got a solid director with Fetty, but I don't think that was enough for me to be like, oh yeah, they're gonna get this right, you know. Though a lot of people were really excited for Fetty Alvarez to come in. A lot of people think he's going to be the one to save the franchise, and I couldn't get there. I couldn't go that far, because while I do think Fetty is a good director, I don't think he's amazing. I don't think he's fantastic, and we've seen other directors come and go with this franchise, and it didn't do anything for it really. So I don't know what Fetty was going to bring to it, but I guess the pitch that they gave to the studio, I guess it was good enough for them to have him work on it. So I only hope for the best. It looked like he was going to, take a similar approach with Prey, make it a more simple story. We're not gonna retread the complicated stuff with the engineers and stuff like that, and just a typical they a bunch of people going onto a ship and they find face huggers and alien comes out, they trying to run away from the alien. That's what I would like to see. I like it to go back to being simple like that. So that's what it seems like it was going to do. The trailers for this movie was really good. I had already talked about them on my channel, but it looked like, as I said, it looked like it was everything that I wanted it to be. As far as just making it a simple story and just going back to the sci-fi horror of it, because I feel like the alien films have been emphasizing a lot on the action aspect and not so much with the sci-fi horror and suspense, and it looked like that's what this movie was going to do. With Fede Alvarez working on horror and thriller movies, I think it'd be perfect to bring that back. You bring us back to the similar vibes with the first Alien. So that looked good. It looked like once again they were mixing the practical effects and the CGI, which is something I love to see. We're seeing practical aliens, but even when they're using VFX, it looks amazing. It looks gorgeous. It looks like it's almost on the same level of detail that James Cameron and Ridley Scott did for the first few movies. Even with Prometheus, I thought, and Alien Covenant, I thought those movies looked really good. It looked like it was in a similar vein with that. The cast is practically unknown for the most part. I think the most well known in the cast was Isabella Merced and Kaylee Spaney, but even them, I don't think they're not huge actors. So I like that they also got unknowns for this. They didn't rely on star power. And what I also appreciated was that this movie only cost 70 to 80 million dollars to make. They didn't put a whole bunch. They didn't overspend on the budget, and so I think that's very smart of them. This movie looks that good, and it only costs $80 million. This is what movies, studios, this is what they need to look at as far as making movies look good without having to overspend on a budget. So everything looks good. Now I still have my, trepidations going in, but everything looked like it was going to be a good movie. So I did have my expectations a little bit high. I did start to get excited for this, but I tried not to get too excited and try to keep my expectations at a reasonable level. So that's what I did. And after watching it opening weekend, I am happy to say that I really enjoyed Alien Romulus. It was such a fun time. Like I really got the feels back to when I was watching Alien and Aliens. Like people working on this movie, I could tell that it is made by people that appreciate the Alien franchise, that love the Alien franchise, and just wanted to bring us back to what we loved about the first two movies. Lady Alvarez, I thought, did a really good job directing this film. Like this is my trilogy now. We finally have a proper trilogy in this franchise with Alien, Aliens, and I'm gonna put Alien Romulus right there. I really really enjoyed this film. Definitely the best sequel they've made since Aliens. Man, I think we're starting to get to a renaissance with the Alien and Predator films. You know, if they're putting this much effort back into those movies again, I think they could help rejuvenate both franchises again. But yeah, I'm very happy with this movie. That being said, I don't think the movie is perfect. I don't think it's quite as good as Alien and Aliens. There's definitely some stuff in here, questionable choices here and there that I was like, I don't know if I'm digging it that much, but I still thought it was a very well done movie. First of all, we got to talk about the how this movie looks. As I talked about earlier, the cinematography, the visuals, everything looks gorgeous. I didn't really think of Fede Alvarez of being an attention to detail as far as that, you know, on a similar level with Ridley Scott and James Cameron. I didn't really expect that, but like, it seems like he did take a lot of influence and definitely had some notes from Ridley Scott because he did help produce this movie. But man, the movie does look absolutely gorgeous. The visuals of space, you know, just how the sun reflects off of everything. The little we do see of the sun in this movie, the spaceships, the different planets, it all looks really really good. Like this, and but at the same time, what I also liked about it is that Fede Alvarez was trying to bring back that classic look from the first two movies. Like it has that like old kind of grainy look for this movie, and I actually thought that was really really cool. While the visuals still look kind of modern, like on a, it does have some influences from Prometheus and Covenant as far as, you know, the larger than life scale, but it still had that old style, you know, kind of grainy type of look, and I actually appreciated that, you know, because that's one of the things I really liked from the first two Alien movies is that it didn't look super clean, you know. That was one of the things that kind of bothered me a little bit in Prometheus, that stuff just looks so clean in that. But like I like the griminess that this movie brought back, you know, a little bit of grit and edge in here as far as just visually, and like you see dirt, you know, I like seeing dirt and sweat and all that stuff, and I like seeing all that in here. And also, if Eddie Alvarez put like a really big emphasis on them using practical effects, bringing back like the practical sets, having puppets for the aliens, having actual goo and slime and sweat, you know, practical fake blood, whatever. Like you know, if you watch the behind the scenes, like they talk about how much they wanted to bring back all the practical, and like they wanted to use CGI when it was absolutely necessary. And I think that is key when making these alien films is that, you know, you like practical, like CGI is good to have, you know, it still looks great, but I don't think they should be overdoing it with the CGI, you know, because like with them having the actual sets and stuff like that, and the practical aliens and the like men in suit with the puppetry and stuff like that, it makes it feel more real. It makes it feel tangible. It makes it feel like we could actually be there. So that's something that they done really well in this movie. The cast I thought was pretty good. Um, I would say, obviously, for a lot of people, they would say the standouts are Kaylee Spaney and David Johnson. Kaylee Spaney, this is the first thing I actually seen her in. I know she's been in other stuff, like more like indie stuff, but I think this will probably be her breakout role because I thought she was pretty good in this. Of course, you could feel like you know they're trying to have her once again. They're trying to emulate a little bit of the magic of what Sigourney Weaver had as Ripley, making her the main action star, the main protagonist that we follow. But what I do appreciate is that Rain isn't a carbon copy of Ripley as far as her character and personality. Like she's her own character, but you could tell they're trying to push her to be like probably the main star of this franchise going forward if they decide to continue with the Alien films after this. But yeah, like she's not like this gritty, edgy character. Like she still is innocent, she's sweet, she's compassionate, but at the same time, when shit hits the fan, like she will get into action. She will, you know, jump into danger to save other people. So that's something I definitely appreciate about her character. Um, David Johnson is Andy, the synthetic of this movie. He I think he's probably the best character in the film. Um, when it comes to synthetics in the Alien films, I do find them very fascinating. Especially with the motives they would have from the Weyland Corporation. You don't know what their plan is as far as them trying to get these alien species or trying to make some artificial stuff for themselves, which is actually something. This is kind of a which is actually kind of something that they touch on in the movie too. But what I really like the most, and I think what really carries this movie, is the relationship between Rain and Andy. Because they start off together. They kind of like they consider themselves brother and sister. They only have themselves. They don't have any parents or anything, and they are forced to be together working on these minefields on uh, this planet, which I assume to be Earth. I guess it is Earth, but like it's all like dark and gloomy and like Blade Runner esque and stuff like that. So the bond that they have with each other, I think, is very nice and actually helps for me to actually care about what happens to them later when they actually get into the crazy stuff with the aliens. Like I actually rooted for them to stay alive. Um, yeah, like they just have a great relationship together. And Andy himself, like I just found him such a sympathetic character, even though he is an android. And then there's some interesting stuff that they do with the other with how as far as like because I'm trying to be careful not to spoil anything, but like there are some dynamics and themes that they do with the synthetics regarding Andy's character that actually I thought was very interesting, and which forced David Johnson to be more expansive as far as his performance. Like he's asked to do quite a bit as far as like the directions that they take his character and his performance, and I thought he was really really good. He's done so well. I hope that this movie help. I hope it helps elevate him and Kaylee Spaney to have bigger roles because I thought they did a great job. The rest of the cast, I thought they were solid. Not too much to say, especially because a couple of them you could tell that they're mainly there to be cannon fodder for the aliens. But I thought the rest of the team was pretty solid. What I also appreciate is that they didn't try to overdo it with the cast. Like it was a small cast, and I think it was easier for us to care about more of the characters if we're not being lost in the shuffle with a whole bunch of characters that we have to follow, which I thought was kind of an issue with Prometheus and Alien Covenant. So I liked that they kept it simple. It was 6 people, so it's easy to follow everybody. Um, but yeah, I thought Tyler, who I guess was the main person running the mission to the Romulus station, he was pretty good. You could tell he's not as like heartless or soulless as the rest of the crew. Like he actually somewhat cares about what happens with Rain and Andy. And Isabel Merced, I actually really liked her in this too. Um, Once again, I think she's one of the other supporting characters that I think are actually likable, and actually there's actually something going on with her character that like actually made me fear for what happens to her later. Something that's happening to her character that's through line throughout the film, and it ends up uh, creating something that happens towards the third act. I'm trying to dance around it because I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't watched it. But yeah, I thought Isabel Merced was good. Can't wait to see what she does as Hawk Girl in Superman. So that's cool. The other two, Navarro and was it Jorn, whatever. I didn't really care for those two that much. Yeah, especially Jorn, if that's her name, Bajorn. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He's the asshole of the group. I didn't really care what happened to him, and he was being really mean to Andy. But they do try to do like some sort of backstory of why he doesn't like Andy because he has a thing, has something tragic happen to his family because of the synthetics. So I thought, okay, I get at least they gave him a reason why he acts that way, but I still didn't care about his character that much. And then Navarro is pretty much just a pilot. That's all she is, and she's there to give some exposition here and there. And yeah, and pretty much they're pretty much if when the shit hits the fan, you don't really care that much about what happens to those two, unfortunately, but it is what it is. um so once again, I like that they are emphasizing more of the horror aspects that the first Alien did, but they still put some sprinkles of aliens as far as the action here, because there's some really cool action set pieces here, especially towards the third act. But I like that we're once again getting back to that suspenseful creepiness and tension with the aliens. Like it's slower, they're slower with the pacing, even though there's not really a boring moment in the movie, And like the pacing of this movie is actually done really, really well. But I like that we're taking it back to the simple, scariness of, you don't know where the alien is coming from, the mystery of what all these space huggers are, what they are, what the alien is from, all that stuff, and them trying to combat it and trying to escape the base before the aliens come and try to kill them. So all that stuff I thought was really good. The tension, the suspense, the psychological nature of it, done really, really well. I actually really liked what they did with the facehuggers in here. They actually made them faster and more agile, and there's a whole bunch of facehuggers in here. So I'm glad that they gave them a lot more spotlight than they did in the previous films. The look of the xenomorph in here, absolutely awesome, amazing, looks great. Looks very similar to the design of the first xenomorph, but modified a little bit to make it look a little different. But yeah, I thought it was great just seeing the practical alien, seeing the similar design as they did with the first film. So that stuff was really good. Now getting to the stuff that I didn't. I'm kind of mixed on. I don't know how to feel. I have to sit on it, and a lot of it has to do with the third act. And a lot of people have been commenting on how much they don't like the third act, and I have to sit on it because I can understand why people didn't like what they did. But at the same time, I kind of appreciate that they're trying to, take the certain concepts that they tried in earlier films and make it better. Because what I will say, without spoiling it, take certain, they do take certain stuff from the previous films, like Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. They take certain stuff from that and they try to apply it here as far as how they're telling the story and certain concepts. They try to make an amalgamation of those things, and they take some certain things from Prometheus and Alien Covenant. And there's this thing that happens towards the third act that really shocked me what they did, and I think I'll say this: I think it's better executed than it was in Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, but I don't feel like it was 100% necessary for them to try and cram that into this movie. And there's one other thing that movies like to do today when they're trying to revive an old franchise. I'm tired of them doing this, and they do it in this. They do they do certain lines and phrases from the older films, and they repurpose it for the new characters to say in certain moments. And if you don't know anything about the lines, like if you haven't seen like the first two Alien films, the lines that they say in this movie will probably go over your head, and maybe they'll enjoy it. But for people that have seen the first two movies and they see certain characters repurpose lines that they say in the previous two movies, they'll probably not dig it as much. They'll probably roll their eyes really hard at it. And I was one of those people that was like, okay, you didn't need to say that. Come on. Like, especially it's confusing because this movie takes place between Alien and Aliens, and they're saying lines from Aliens that hasn't already happened yet. So it's like I don't know why they feel the need to do that. There's also certain characters that there's a certain character that kind of returns in this that's from one of the other older movies, and I felt like I see what they were trying to do with trying to incorporate that legacy character into this with story wise, but I felt like that was unnecessary. I thought if they did this with a completely new character, I think the story wouldn't really change that much, So that's my whole thing. But really, that's the only issues I have with it, without spoiling anything. But yeah, those are the type of things I was worried about. The third act, they really they try some really risky stuff. Once again, just trying to take certain themes and concepts from three and Resurrection and try to cram it into the third act. Repurposing iconic lines from the older movies that it felt really clunky, and using certain legacy characters from the older movies, and that was unnecessary. But outside of that, I really enjoyed this film, and I'm going to go see this again. Um, and I definitely think this is a good Alien movie. This is a really good Alien film. This is so much more effort put into this than the past four Alien sequels. And I definitely would consider this to be almost on the level of the first two Alien movies. So Fede Alvarez, I thought did a really good job directing this movie. I thought the cast in here was pretty good. I thought the action set pieces were done really well. I thought the looks of the aliens and the facehuggers were awesome. I like the sets, I like the visuals, I like the gritty nature. I like the horror, psychological, the tension of it. I thought was done really well. If they didn't just try to be super ambitious with trying to homage all the other sequels so hard and just kept it simple all the way through, I think this would have. I think this would have been on the same level as the first two Alien movies, but it's right below it to me. So I'm going to give Alien Romulus a B plus. It was almost an A minus. It was almost an A minus, but like when we started getting into the other stuff that I was talking about earlier, it started to bring it down for me. But still, really good Alien film. And if we get this much effort for it when if they decide to continue with the rest of the franchise, I think we'll be in a good place. But those are my thoughts on Alien Romulus. What did you guys think about it? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys think it was okay? How does it compare to the other Alien films? How does it compare to Alien and Aliens? Comment your thoughts down below and let me know. So, I have concluded talking about the Alien franchise for now. Like I said, I'll probably go back and talk about the Predator films and the Alien vs. Predator movies at a later date. So, we'll see when that happens. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this review, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell if you want to be notified on future videos I'll be doing. But that's all I have for you Alien fans, and I'll catch you guys next time. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.